John R. Lewis, a civil rights leader who preached nonviolence while enduring beatings and jailings during seminal frontline confrontations of the 1960s and later spent more than 3 decades in Congress defending the crucial gains he had helped achieve for people of color, has died. He was 80. His death was announced in statements from his family and from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Advisors to senior Democratic leaders confirmed that he died July 17, but other details were not immediately available. Mr. Lewis, a Georgia Democrat, announced his diagnosis of pancreatic cancer on December 29 and said he planned to continue working amid treatment. "I have been in some kind of fight for freedom, equality, basic human rights, for nearly my entire life," he said in a statement. "I have never faced a fight quite like the one I have now." His last public appearance came at Black Lives Matter Plaza with D.C. Mayor Muriel E. on June 7, 2 days after taping a virtual town hall online with former President Barack Obama. While Mr. Lewis was not a policy maven as a lawmaker, he served the role of conscience of the Democratic caucus on many matters. His reputation as keeper of the 1960s flame defined his career in Congress. When President George H.W. Bush vetoed a bill easing requirements to bring employment discrimination suits in 1990, Mr. Lewis rallied support for its revival. It became law as the Civil Rights Act of 1991. It took a dozen years, but in 2003 he won authorization for construction of the National Museum of African American History and Culture on the Mall. In 2012, when Representative Paul C. Broun, R.G. proposed eliminating funding for one aspect of the Voting Rights Act, Mr. Lewis denounced the move as shameful. The amendment died. Mr. Lewis' final years in the House were marked by personal conflict with President Trump. Russia's interference in the 2016 election, Mr. Lewis said, rendered Trump's victory illegitimate. He boycotted Trump's inauguration. Later, during the House's formal debate on whether to proceed with the impeachment process, Mr. Lewis had evinced no doubts. "For some, this vote might be hard," he said on the House floor in December 2019. "But we have a mandate and a mission to be on the right side of history." Born to impoverished Alabama sharecroppers, Mr. Lewis was a high school student in 1955 when he heard broadcasts by the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. that drew him to activism. "Every minister I'd ever heard talked about, over yonder, where we'd put on white robes and golden slippers and sit with the angels," he recalled in his 1998 memoir, Walking with the Wind. But this man was talking about dealing with the problems people were facing in their lives right now, specifically Black lives in the South. Mr. Lewis vaulted from obscurity in 1963 to head the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which he helped form 3 years earlier.